Hello. Hi, TFC Jedi 18. What's up? I'm Aphrodite, you're a Starfire. Can you hear me okay? I am experiencing some technical difficulties. Um, how's everybody today? I dropped the link. If anybody wants to call in. Okay, good. I see myself seeing myself. Hi, SM. Let's talk about James Munder. Okay. Yeah, you want to call in? Um, Hey, Creator Mom, what's up? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. A little cat butt over here. Um, what about James Munder do you want to talk about? I saw some other people bringing up James Munder today in Trinity Red Pill Blue Pill chat. Was that you, SM? Somebody said they missed James Munder just like an hour ago. He used to bring us the Munderground news, but he was killed by a Tesla on the 405 freeway. That was you? Oh, awesome. Yeah. Um, I don't know if it really got uh expressed fully on the last or on the live stream I did with Sherelle, but it was kind of new information for me, but that um the car that James Munder was driving that day, he had just picked up that day, like a new um kind of rental car. It was like a new car he had just got. And apparently the girl at the dealership knew James Munder, the one that sold it to him. So that's interesting. I think it was like a Nissan that he died in. I'm not 100% sure on that though. But apparently he had just gotten that car that day. So that's super fishy. Look, I got a little lap cat. Yeah. Does anybody want to call in? You don't have to show your face. You can turn the video off. I don't really have any topics, so if anybody wants to topic me or ask me any questions, I was going to go to the mall today with my little sisters, but that has been since postponed because one of my little sister's girlfriends that we went to go pick up, she passed out. She had a syncopal episode. So we took her back home and rescheduled the mall trip for another day. Hey, Share Bear, nice to see you. Hi, Kat, what's up? SM says, James had so many of the wrong kind of friends. He was always pill popping. His friends came over to his mom's house and stole a lot of her things. Plus, James' girlfriend Marcy was stealing too. Um, yeah, I don't know about any of all that. I do know Marcy kind of got a really bad rap when James passed. and she really didn't get to tell her side of the story. But I think the information came from Marcy that this car was a brand new car. It wasn't a brand new car, but it was brand new to James that day that he died in. And he was hit by a Tesla after he flipped the car he was driving in that he had just gotten that day. So super fishy. Yeah, I'd asked Marcy. I think one of her friends contacted me and was like, saying that a lot of lies were being told about Marcy, and I invited Marcy or her friend or both to come on and talk, and say what they wanted to say on my platform if they wanted to, but I didn't. They didn't. I think they wanted to remain, um, off camera and all that. So Fader Mom says, what's your thoughts on going back to school? Like me personally going back to school or like kids going back to school? um yeah, I don't plan to go back to school anytime personally. um but my little sisters are going to go back to school here pretty soon, and it seems like the school programs are like constantly changing. There's a lot of turnover with the teachers. The teachers are always kind of moving around, a lot more than when I was going through school. Um, yeah, but I think after the big C, like everything kind of got flipped up, you know. Um, and I think it's hard for the teachers because they get all of these new, regulations about, the new curriculum, or like we're supposed to do this year, and it's like things are always changing about what they're allowed to teach. So that makes it difficult for teachers. Yeah, the little girl passed out. We were at one of the other friends' place, and she has goats and chickens, and we just took a moment before we went to the mall to pet the goats and chickens, and yeah, she just slumped over and passed out, and then she puked. So we're like, gotta go back home. So I think she's okay. But I don't she didn't eat anything in the morning, and as girls come to this age, we have to learn new things about our bodies, and I think that's what was going on. Hopefully. But she's gonna go to the doctor and get checked out. And hopefully we can all go to the mall another day. Um, SM says, remember when James' mom died? James and Hayes came in the middle of the night to her house and literally broke into the home. I wasn't watching when that happened. Um, but I guess if, the moms passed, wait, James and Hayes came in the middle of the night to her house and literally broke into the house. Well, I would think you would have to. Well, did they already know she had passed when they broke in, or um, yeah. SN says, remember when Hayes purposely drugged James in Florida? Yeah. Then left him on the boardwalk while filming him. Hayes was always doing crappy things to James. Yeah, and it seemed like Hayes moved on to Dabu 7 to be his new YouTube buddy. And Hayes was posting that he was gonna like he went to go visit Dabu 7 in Kentucky, and was acting like he was gonna buy the plot of land next door to Dabu 7. And Dabu 7 said he was like he was kind of for it, I guess, because they're friends. I guess Hayes gives Stop 7 some donations. I think I have a guest. Oh, it's Drew. Hello?
Hey there, Aphrodite. How you doing, Aphrodite?
Hey, creeper creeps. What's
What's
up?
up?
What you doing, Drew?
Well, raising these kids.
Yeah, how's that going?
What's going?
Cool. How old are your kids now?
1 and 1.
Didn't one just have a birthday on the 1st?
Not on the first, but one just had a birthday, and then the other one's birthday is in a week. So he'll be 2 in a week.
Wow. That's like, what do you call those, Irish twins?
Yep, Irish twins.
You got your hands full. Oh, I can hear some babies. Wow.
Yeah, they're going nuts. Get out of there. Get, boy.
Cat says, Drew, come to troll ya. Hi, Lisa
Who said that?
Rose. Cat.
That's bullshit.
Drew already trolled me this morning on my post about surgery, the surgical transplant. That I never heard that story before. Had you? About these two? I don't know if they're saints. One was like, I forgot their names already.
I didn't see the video, but I know. I saw the one you linked, but I didn't watch it yet.
Oh, so you just like talk shit, post a comment, but you didn't actually watch it?
Yeah, totally.
Typical. So what's your deal, Drew? Like, why are you always like commenting on all my stuff? Like, do I have like your notifications on full? Like,
no, I just see you come on here and you just say such outlandish things, and then like the same thing with whether it's RKX or Paul Enslaved and these people that are saying outlandish things. I don't mind like trying to like check people when they're saying crazy things. That's all.
Okay. Well, seems like you pay me a lot of attention.
I'm here right now, ain't I?
Yeah. Thanks for joining my channel. Usually I am giving you the content, but today you are providing content for me. So thank you.
That's right. Are you still at your mom's?
I am. I am in the music room right now. Yes, in North Carolina.
Mom just had babies or something too?
My mom had a second set of children while I was in medical school.
Oh, okay. So that's the 13-year-olds.
Yeah, I have a 14-year-old little sister and then twin 13-year-olds.
Okay, I thought they were even younger, but okay, I get it.
No, that's it. And yeah, so that was a big talking point when I was in medical school. It was like, my mom's 55 and she just got pregnant. And then it was like, and she's gonna deliver twins. But that's like also part of like why I'm, starting up my bloodline and how like miraculous like my DNA line is like the possibilities that have been shown to me
but that's
already.
not natural, right? That's like some kind of fertility treatment or something.
Yeah, but even with fertility treatments, it's very highly unusual that a woman can have such successful pregnancies. And she delivered the twins vaginally. Like, she carried them to full term, and she was 56 years old, 57.
What did the doctors say? Did they say?
Well, she was going to the doctor all the time because she was, it was a high-risk pregnancy. Yeah, for a moment, she possibly had to go to the Cleveland Clinic to have like intraplacental surgery for the twins, but then they evened out and that she didn't need to do that. But yeah, it's pretty like miraculous what we can do with our bodies, and reverse
Well,
menopause. It's all about hormones.
for a
Hmm?
woman, it's miraculous. A man can be squirting out babies 56 years old still.
Yeah, that's true. A man can have babies until he dies if his sperm is viable enough.
Yep.
A lot of men these days don't even have viable sperm in their 20s and 30s.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yup.
shooting out 2 boys at 44, so
Are you
I'm still
planning to
good.
have some more?
Oh man, I'm not planning, but
But
if
it
it
might
happens,
happen.
I guess it happens. I
Well,
hope.
well,
I don't know.
how's your
I
new
gotta.
job going?
It's okay. I'm still on the 90 days probation, so
Oh, so maybe you
they
should
kind
stop
of.
watching my YouTube videos on the clock.
No, I can still do that.
What
I
kind of
just
work are you doing?
worked on the docks, and but it's mostly at night, so we do a lot of the outdoor things at night,
Oh,
so that
cool.
before it gets too hot.
Yeah, I can imagine in Florida.
Yeah, way too hot, man. Who's the James Munder people? I don't know. Like I've heard of him, but I don't really know much about him.
Well, he used to have like a gigantic channel called Munderground News, and he did daily live streams and news updates about whatever the current events were.
That was
But
like Sherelle was his groupie or something, or what?
Sherelle was his girlfriend on and off.
Oh, that was his girlfriend.
Yeah, they were like kind of like, the love of each other's lives, but because James had issues with substances and stuff, it was like on and off. And they lived in different sides of the country too.
And
But they really had a lot of love
what's
for
like
each
the
other.
official way they say he died, and what's the conspiracy?
Um the I never saw the oh wait, they said blunt force trauma, I think, was the mode of death. Um and then I don't know, Hayes like flashed bits of paperwork, but he never like showed it. Um he basically shredded all of James's paperwork. He on a live stream. He just went through all of James' stuff and just shredded all of it. And James
Who
had
did that?
files and files. His this guy named Hayes, who now is glommed on to Dabu Seven. You know who Dabu Seven
Yeah,
is? Yeah,
Abu 7 here. Breaking news.
right. Dabu Seven.
Abu
Um,
7.
but yeah, and so Hayes, I think he has mob ties. He worked on the World Trade Center and then got rolled over by a dump truck,
Get out
and
of here.
so he like broke his pelvis, and he needed all this kind of reconstructive surgery, and he's always bragging he got this big settlement um, from the World Trade Center. But it was only until like a few months ago that he actually got the settlement agreed to, and I guess he got paid out. And that was after James died. So it was very
So
like
that's the money
timely.
that somebody paid him to whack him.
I think so. I
Pretty
think so.
convenient.
And yeah, because James had files and files and files of stuff that he was like keeping records of and paperwork. The other interesting thing is that James was part of the what do they call it? That child abuse um scandal that came out of Manhattan Beach. Um
I don't know what
that
that's.
it was the ritualistic satanic abuse of all the kids in the preschool, like reported that the like grandmother and then the two adult sons that were running the daycare were taking the children in an underground tunnel to this other building and then abusing them. And it was like made headline. It was like all over the news in the 80s. And I think it's McMartin, the McMartin daycare. I think that was
So
it.
he was one of those kids.
He was so he said he was at the daycare, but and he remembered like the big, everything happening, but nothing personally had happened to him. He said,
Okay.
yeah, but it was so it was like the time of the satanic panic, when they were going after
Yeah.
the rock music and stuff. So they like were broadcasting this, scandal, and then they interviewed all the children like without the parents and basically decided that all the children were making it up, and that it was like these false memories that were put into the kids' heads, and it was kind of just like shuffled aside, and the kids were told basically that it's in your head, that never happened.
That's
But then I
messed
think
up.
yeah, but then I think they actually later found the tunnel or something, and I think, who is this person? Uriel. Oh wait. Oh, they have like 5 names. Hugh Dunham. Uriel Ari. Hello. Is muted. Well, okay.
Get yourself, Uriel.
Uriel Hugh.
Well, I'm gonna hang up and listen. I got to get after these boys from now. Hold on.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling, Drew. Oh, the other person left too. All right. So yeah, I thought Drew was gonna have some topics he wanted to like chat about. SM says James was just about to get everything his mom had when he died. James' mom was mixed up with the mob. She was prosecuted for it. Plus, she was part of the Red Hat Society too. Yeah, what is the Red Hat Society? I know people keep bringing that up. I know she was a real estate agent. And James was having some problems with the I think like paying, like he had to pay off, like there's like the death tax and stuff when you inherit um money and property from a dead relative. You have to pay taxes on it, and he like didn't have the money to pay. Hi, Paradox Fossils. What's up? Yeah, if somebody can talk about the Red Hat Society, that would be really cool. Hi, Ro knows the truth. Fake ass truth community, Dabu, LOL. That's really interesting. And James Munder's father worked in the movies, and apparently was really like I think he was prop design or set design. And from what I was told, the he worked on the movie Casino with Robert De Niro, and that famous scene where Robert De Niro is about to get into, or he does get into the car, his car, and there's a bomb under the seat, and it's tripped off, and Robert De Niro is able to get out of the car before it blows up, I think. Anyways, apparently that was Gino, James Munder's dad's car. Like it was Gino's actual car that they used to blow up in that scene. So that's like really weird pre-programming, timely stuff, because James Munder died in a car accident. Actually, 2. Like he flipped his car and then a Tesla hit him. So it's like 2 car accidents in one pop. But yeah, Hayes really gives off mob vibes, and he's always talking about his connections and who he knows and flashing signs, dropping hints. But he did get a really big payoff that was supposedly for him getting injured working on rebuilding the World Trade Center. But it only happened after James died and after Hayes went into James's house and shredded all of James's stuff. Hi, Weed Free. Hi, Sherry Ann. Sherry Ann says older women's club. But what is their focus? The Red Hat Society. Kat says, I'd come on, but I'm set up to offer massage at the local. Oh, cool. I hope you get some customers. SM says, James' mom had a restraining order against him for sexual. James' mom had a restraining order against who? Who was the restraining order against? Kat says, I feel like I might get Mundered. Uh-oh. I hope not. SM says, James is pretty cruel to Gino. Yeah. Nachiketa wants to join.
Hello, my name is Nachiketa. This is my first time on your channel. Nice to meet you, Aphrodite.
Nice to meet you. What's up?
Not much. I have never heard of the Red Hat Society either, so I would be curious to know what they're about. But I just stopped by to check out, what your channel is about. And I've heard you talk about some people before on some of your videos. I accidentally found you doing some research on archaics. Actually, then I actually enjoyed your video. What you had to say about that. I'm not really here to talk about him, Jason Bashir's, but just here to hang out. I'm in agreement with you about your assessment about him and his channel. So, anyways,
yeah. What do you think about Bro Sanchez teaming up with Jason Bashir's and bringing him on a bunch of times?
So I've been a flat earther for a while, since 2014, and I am a flat earther, just to throw myself out there. I'm not a big fan of Bro Sanchez, to be honest, but I haven't really seen enough of him to really know what he is about. How do you feel about it?
I think it's weird. The first time Bro Sanchez brought on Jason Bashir's, I thought it was just because he wanted to Bro Sanchez wanted to expand his audience even more. But I think he's brought him on 3 or 4 times now. I don't really watch Bro Sanchez's streams just because every time I have clicked in, it's like he's in some kind of he's it wasn't like the stream was going. He just had it running and he was out of his chair doing things. So it's like I never clicked in the right time. But I don't know. It seems like they're agents, why I wouldn't think Bro Sanchez would really think that Archaics was a valid person, I would think Bro Sanchez would be more critical of him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the stream went because I didn't watch it. I just saw the thumbnails of it.
Yeah, it's difficult to say because obviously Archaics has been picking up a lot of steam lately, and he's has a lot of people on his channel now. I think he's got over 100,000 people sub to him, and if he does go live, he's got at least I've seen at least 1,000 people on there. And with a lot of these so-called agents, in my personal opinion, they mix the truth with lies, right? So just trying to sift through all that, trying to understand what the agenda is. Is it just to divert? Is it just to There's a guy. He has a channel called Quantum of Conscience, and he says pissed on breadcrumbs, basically breadcrumbs that's been pissed on, right?
Yeah.
So is it just to take us down the wrong trail?
Right.
Type of deal. I'm not entirely sure. And there are more and more content creators nowadays than I have time to assess. Or I mean, there's so much information that's going on. So that's part of the agenda as I see it. From my perspective, yeah, there are bad guys in this world, and they are pulling the strings on a lot of stuff. And you were talking about 9/11 earlier. I don't know where you are at with that, but I think that was an inside job. But there are a lot of layers to it, personally speaking.
Wait, what was
You know,
I what did you say I was talking about?
I thought you were speaking about 9/11 earlier, or
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Were you not?
Um, well, I was talking about this other guy who was working on the World Trade Center.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's an inside job for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, there were like
Yeah.
it's like these spells, these big rituals that are being performed to keep us distracted.
Hmm.
But the Jason Bashir is like he must um a lot of these people, they have training, in how to like
Hmm.
hypnotize people, or and I am still kind of confused on why Jason Bashir is able to get such a following, especially with women, like middle-aged women, how they just don't really question his background, or and then there's also this thing about like if you're really trying to get people to understand a concept, you break it down to like layman's terms. You break it down so that the average man can understand what you're saying. That's like what a really intelligent person does, is they take like the really um, cerebral concepts and put it into simple language that the average person can understand. But it's like
Hmm.
Jason Bashir does the opposite. He complicates things. He writes essays in his posts, um,
Hmm.
just so verbose with the words and the big words. Like he's trying to prove that he's really smart. It's this um, like this. You can see his own feeling of deficiency that he, I guess, was in prison this whole time, so he has to look like he's educated by using all these big words and trying to sound complicated.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I just see it as a bunch of bullshit, but I guess a lot of people see it like, oh wow, he's really well read and educated. He must really know what he's talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say about the middle-aged ladies. I mean, there are a lot of probably lonely people out there, and if they can get attention from a person who is somewhat, well known on the internet, I suppose that's their business in a way. But yeah, I think part of the problem that we're facing is just the lack of discernment in general in regards to what's happening in the world, right? And he may be trying to come across, and a lot of people tend to have this kind of a facade about them, right? And nobody
Yeah,
wants to present themselves as an idiot or uneducated, right? Especially if they have a channel and they're speaking quite often in public. So
well, just
I just question, like his narrative in general. And like I'm into conspiracy, quote unquote, conspiracy theories, and I'm into different types of research. And I always like to, if something I don't understand, I like to keep it on the back burner. And but like I do feel like there's some kind of an agenda coming from him and other people as well, and I can't really put my finger on it. But again, it's hard to get to the bottom of it all the time. So.
yeah. I do know he bans anybody that asks him these questions. I was banned like from video one or whatever. But yeah, like just the narrative of how he's gotten this information through like some secret library in the prison. Like, come on, like
Hmm.
what prison has some secret Harry Potter library with all the old books, you know? like maybe
I don't know.
maybe these people came from like a seminary school and they're trained by the Vatican or something, and they're given these scripts about what their past is, like
Mm.
a role to play. But it is like, it's weird, like who are the, if they are agents, who is the boss, you know, who's giving them the orders, where are the orders coming from? Is it government? Is it the Vatican? Is it Carl Schwab? Like,
It's I think it's not something because there's so many layers to, you know, who the boss is, and the bosses have bosses, and those bosses have other bosses as well, right? And
mm-hmm,
just the way I see the world is like there's a lot of compartmentalization that's happening, and there are, you know, decent people within the government, you know, who are just, you know, they're just normal people, and they think they're doing good things, right? But then there are other people who are fully aware of the agenda that they're, you know, trying to push, and other people, they're just kind of pawns in the game, you know, that they're just kind of, you know, like the grunts, or, you know, they're not really privy to the big picture of what's going on. So often with these people, like, you know, they're kind of given a deal that they can't refuse, right? You got carrot on one hand and you have the stick on the other hand. So I do think there is something to be said about like MK Ultra. A lot of victims who are MK Ultra, and there are different levels of that. You know, people, from what I read from Fritz Springmeier. I don't know how familiar you are with his
I'm
work.
not.
Fritz Springmeier wrote a book about how to create like a complete mind control slave, and, you know, there are other people who kind of came out and talked about how they were like beta sex slaves, like Bryce Taylor. You know, there's another lady who wrote a book called The Transformation of America, and so basically, you know, from birth, they come from like, you know, some kind of a government or CIA military families, and then they were given like an assessment test, and from a very early age, you know, they can determine what, you know, you can be utilized for the, you know, whatever whatever faction that you want to name, you know. But I think they all rub shoulders with each other, right? So it's a very big, you know, idea that's out there, you know, in terms of quote unquote Illuminati and different secret organizations, right? And I do
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of them are very much, and MK Ultra is like interconnected with satanic ritual abuse, and you know, you touched on that a little bit, and that stuff definitely is going on, you know. So
Yeah, and it's weird, like how much disclosure is coming in through the movies, and I'm almost like at the mindset that, you know, we're like in this rat race and we're given these scripts to live by, and it's like a deviation from your like heart, like your DNA is the railroad track, right? It's like a spiral railroad track,
hmm
and
double
um
helix.
yeah, and it's like you have like maybe like a soul mission, or just in every moment things that you really want to do, but every time you deny that and do something else, like for your job, or because this person told you this is what you need to do, or you need to like, you want to look this way but somebody tells you you have to look that way, like the longer you are off of your natural track and you're trying to live some other way, like that shortens your life, like it contributes to a decreased lifespan. It's like the slave mentality of doing somebody else's work for some kind of other
hmm
betterment, like for a pat on the back, or, you know, you're told that this is the right way to do things. But like giving your life force in service to something else that's not coming from um, a natural drive, like that was already ingrained in your DNA. And then like the more you go back to like the natural, like what you know is true in the moment, Like as
Hmm.
you go back to that, like you can actually live a lot longer and get closer to like the days of Noah where they were living like these hundreds of years. Um,
Uh, yeah, maybe I'm not entirely sure about that, but like I do think that people could have lived longer, and certainly in the Bible they talk about how many these people lived, like 400 years or even longer. Um, I personally don't feel like the point of life is just only to live longer. Of course, it'll be nice to live a long and healthy life, but you know, uh, some people, I think, they compromise themselves, and they want to just get a little bit more out of life and just get a little bit more money or property or status, and they're willing to compromise their values for that. And
yeah.
uh, but I would prefer not. I just rather have a short and honorable life, if that's the case, if that's what God ordained for me. But so different people have to make their own choices. What's important to them, But just living a long life is not the goal in my mind. Only.
Yeah. Well, it's like what is the ultimate like goal of this macro and micro MK Ultra mind control? Like what are they preventing us from discovering, or what is like the natural course of things that would have happened if we hadn't been subject to that uh, type of mind control? And it's like
Well,
hidden worlds, hidden
I think
lands.
could be. I mean, but what are the most like important okay, like this is just my personal opinion, but like what is the greatest trick the devil has ever played, right? Like everybody has heard about this, right? What is the
Like
greatest trick
saying that he doesn't
that the
exist.
yeah, so like when you look around, right? Like on averages, I'm not talking about exceptions. On average, what is happening to humanity and like human values? Like people are living kind of like a YOLO lifestyle. You only live you only live once, kind of deal. And like we live in the now, and there's no God. So like this kind of quote unquote scientism, in my mind, is like the new religion as well, right? So they have control of the academia in to the large part, and the media as well, and the Hollywood. So I think these are all controlled like arms of their organization to give you a perception of reality. So they want to have control over your consciousness, in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And there are different ways they go about doing that. Money is also a construct that we have all like consented and agreed upon, but
Yeah.
at a deeper, more fundamental, and it's the greatest religion there is, actually. I don't care if you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or Christian. You still have to deal with money and banks and all these organizations, right? So the head of these organizations, like the Bank of International Settlement, the IMF, the World Bank, and then you have the central banks, and then you have the other banks. And right now there are two main companies. They are like BlackRock and Vanguard, who practically owns everything. They have their fingers in everything as well,
Mhm.
and there are private entities who are behind them. So if you ask what do they really want, is they want control. They want ultimate and absolute control, and they want to dictate to you how you're going to live your life. In my mind,
Right.
and that's why they want to create this one world government. So
Yeah, they
that's how
want
I see it.
you to devote your life force to building their power instead of devoting your own life force to creating whatever you see as like beneficial to you. Like, um, don't work on your own farm. Come to my big farm and work there, and I'll pay you money. And that then, but it's like I don't know. It's also this like sacrifice mentality, that there's honor and sacrifice, and like that's what you can't have success without sacrifice, or God's always needs sacrifices for you to. Um, I think that's a big mind control thing, is that you have to put in the work. You have to give something up to get ahead. I just watched the M Night Shyamalan last movie, Knock on the Cabin. I think that's what it is, Knock on the Cabin.
I have not seen it. No.
Oh, it's about the apocalypse, and it's like this gay couple that have an adopted daughter from China, and all of a sudden these four people show up at the cabin that they're staying at for the vacation, and they say to the little family, you have to decide amongst yourselves who you're going to kill to save the world. And if you don't decide which one of you to kill, then the whole world's going to end.
Well, um, so when I hear the word sacrifice, there's two things that I'm thinking. There's kind of like their satanic ritual abuse type of sacrifice, where they actually may sacrifice their firstborn, or they might ask you to sacrifice some member of your family, some kind of Moloch type of thing that they did in the past. With the Canaanites, where the word cannibal may come from, like Canaanites and worship of Baal, right?
Yeah.
So, but in my opinion, love is a form of sacrifice as well. Like when you love your family, you sacrifice your time and energy and attention to provide for them. You may want to do this or that or whatever, so you have to sacrifice the things that you feel like that you want to do out of duty, right? So what kind of sacrifice? I mean, life requires some kind of sacrifice in a way, like, but not not necessarily like blood and gore type of thing, but like, you need to make choices in life. So in order for you to
Right.
choose, you have to sacrifice the thing that you may have wanted to do for the things that needs to be done, as an example.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the track. Like, what you want to do versus what needs to be done. Like, which one's true?
That's
Is it
only the
more
individual
true?
can decide.
Yeah. But that's like the little choices that's like selling your soul, right? Uh, Believing that if you do what you really want, you're not going to get what you
Yeah, well, they have that motto, right? Like, do what thou wilt, right? That's the motto of the Satanist, right?
want. Well, it's
Do what thou wilt.
Aleister Crowley, Thelema, right?
Yeah, yeah. But a lot of people like Jay-Z and other people, they have it on their shirts, and they kind of follow this idea of do what you want. But in my mind, okay, do what you want, but there are consequences, and if you're not aware of the consequences, you're gonna be suffering. You're gonna reap what you sow, type of deal. It's not just a matter of doing what you want, but understanding why you want to do what you whatever that it is that you're doing. That's So if you're ignorant of the things that you think you want to do something, and then people often like say, I want this and I want that, and they go get it, and it doesn't really, they're not happy with it, right?
Right.
They had some imagination about that thing that they thought they wanted, and then once they have gotten it, it wasn't enough, right?
Right.
Or
Well,
it's
because
very short lived.
yeah, but because people are confused and they label things incorrectly. They think like, oh, I want the big house and a nice car, and um, and then when they get it, it's like, oh, you actually wanted people's approval. That's what you really wanted
Right.
to be validated. You wanted to be admired. That's that's what you really wanted. And when they get the house and the car and people are still jerks to them, like, oh, it's not what I thought it was. It's like, well, you didn't really, that's not what you really wanted in the first place. You just labeled it as this materialistic thing. But in actuality, you just wanted to be validated. You just wanted to be seen. But that's kind of the
After
end of
all
the
the approval. you
Yeah.
know, and validation, you still may come to the realization that you're quite, you know, lonely and unhappy and unsatisfied with your life because you've done so many, you know, I don't know, unhonorable stuff or stuff that is really not, that was not really good, really, you know, and that's what you did in order to get that approval. So was it worth it at the end of the day? You know, I don't know,
Right.
right?
All those little sacrifices that you made. But I don't really agree with you about loving and sacrifice because that's kind of what the end of the movie for the M. Night Shyamalan movie is that basically love equals sacrifice kind of thing. Um, which is, it just kind of feeds into this, you know, Jehovah God bloodthirsty that, requires paying homage.
I think
Like,
I think I didn't explain myself well enough. What I meant is that you cannot serve two masters. You have to make choices. You know, so let's say, for example, like the word love is quite, you know, vast and deep, right? So you know, like people may think about love as like a kind of like towards somebody, you know, like I love this person or that. But like if you love, let's say, in a partnership, your partner, obviously you're going to have to sacrifice all the other potential partners that you could have been with in order to be with that one person, as an example, you know?
yeah.
So,
But it's like
but
the
yeah,
ultimate love is really yourself because you could love somebody, but they treat you like crap, but you love them. But it's like until you love yourself the most, that's when you find the partner that will love you in a way that's
agreed.
reciprocal.
Yeah,
Um,
if you love somebody who, you know, treats you like a piece of shit and you continue to love them, people say, "Oh no, that's unconditional love," but that's also called Stockholm syndrome as well.
yeah,
So,
and you're not practicing unconditional love on yourself. So it's basically a lie. Like how can you unconditionally love somebody else if you can't unconditionally love yourself?
right.
Um,
Most people don't know how to, you know, respect themselves. I mean, you know, you gotta walk before you can run anyways, right? So and love is very deep and intimate type of thing. So, you know, just having um like positive thoughts about oneself, there are a lot of reasons as to why we may not like ourselves, you know, and people come up and you know, the world is already difficult enough to put people down for you know, their looks or their intelligence or, you know, their property, material things, their status, et cetera, et cetera. So um, so it's a difficult thing for most people. You know, that's what a lot of people are struggling with, is just figuring out a way to, you know, love themselves
and
as
also,
we're speaking.
I also wonder too, like how many voices are in people's heads. Like a lot of people, especially men, talk about voices in their heads, and I think a lot of people have two, maybe three voices in their heads talking or arguing with each other about what they should or shouldn't do, or you know how to think. I really only have one voice in my head. I guess there's a voice and a listener, uh, but um, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. But
I
it
don't
it
know.
oh, the difference between your will and instinct. Like my little sisters were kind of talking with each other about it, and they're like, if everything is based on instinct, how do you have free will? And they were trying to like say that everything is just instinctual, so there really is no free will. Like, what do you think about that?
That's that's one of the big topics these days, that people said there is and there isn't, and I think it's you know, very much dependent on how you define quote unquote free will, right? Like so, like, you know, like you don't as an individual have absolute free will like that of like a god or a deity or something like that, because we are in a human form. Obviously, within the human form, there's still big range of people who are, let's say, Olympic athletes, and they will themselves to, work really hard to run a 100-meter dash or become, an athlete. But obviously, only a very small percentage of people have the will and, all the, I mean, like, everything is given to them, and then they have to add extra on top of that to become that individual. So I don't necessarily believe that, like everybody has this, like will. But the thing is, like, you're given the cards that you're given, which is like your DNA, your culture, your circumstances, and all that. And I think there is a little bit of room to go in some direction in that, from based on what's given. So that, to me, is what free will is. And even within that confine of limited choices, it can still be big enough of a difference to create a quote unquote a happy life or a tragic life, in my mind. Even though at the end of the day, I think there are a lot of things that is kind of a little bit outside of our control, right? Like
Yeah.
there are accidents, and you could get hit by lightning. I mean, there are, like, always some examples of things that are just kind of bewildering, that nobody could have imagined. But you still have to work with probabilities, and for the most part, people just live quote unquote normal lives, right? So
Yeah. And it's like this juxtaposition of when you become awakened or you realize this huge lie that's being told to us, the mind control, and then you actually research the disclosure that's already been put out there by our government about what they are actually doing to us, and Project Paperclip and Project Bluebeam and all that. And it's like, well, where do you what do you do with this information? Do you like try to change it? Do you try to break through the firmament? Do you just see it as distraction and just try to live your life the most natural way you can? Like, do you push the borders, or do you like accept the petri dish, like zoo, as your your surroundings? Like, how, like, I feel being on YouTube and talking about it is part of breaking down the like deconditioning the MK Ultra. But then it's also like how much of that is the MK Ultra to like suck our attention, into the conspiracy and figuring it out, as opposed to, and then it's like, I get told a lot, oh, I need to have kids and stuff, and like how much is having kids like reinvesting into the system and like the soul recycling system. Like, oh, well, you decided to put your DNA back into the system, so there you go, you put right back in. Like, maybe it's not having kids and like deciding not to keep investing your DNA into the bank trust, the trust, and hoping to get returns. Like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
well, I mean, there's a lot to go into about that, but personally speaking, I think it's good to be as aware of what's going on as possible. Like Operation Paperclip of the Nazis being brought over to America, and you have Werner von Braun, and then you have what was his name? He was the guy twins.
Yeah, and they
Gosh, I've
all went
forgotten
to
it.
USC,
You know?
UCLA, Santa Monica,
Yeah.
and that's where Barbie, skates out of Barbie Land onto Venice Beach. It's like right there. That's like where it
Yep.
was born.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so like, I think it's good to be aware. Maybe it's not good to be so obsessed about it. I mean, it's we got to keep a balanced life. There are things in front of you. You do have to go. You have a body, right? So this is what would be considered in, like, in Vedic tradition, like karma yoga. Karma yoga is that you have a body and you have to fuel this body. No different from you having a car. You have to maintain the car. You have to give fuel to the car. So these are real things right there in front of you. But on the other hand, you have what is called Jnana Yoga, which is like collecting information and trying to incorporate that, and seeing how it applies to your life. And it's not possible for any one individual to have like a big picture of everything that's happening in the world. Like, it would be very daunting task. There are certain individuals who will be put in a position to specialize, and they have the will, like just like Olympic, athletes, they just have that will, and that they have that drive to really specialize and get really nitty gritty into whatever subject. If that's you, that's fine, and if not, then you it's just, you got to find that balance. So I can't tell anybody else what that balance point is. Only the individual themselves can understand what that balance point is, and so, like, having more children, if that's their duty, that's fine, but just understand that there's a lot of programming that's happening in the world, and there's a lot of conditioning that's happening. And if you get yourself wrapped up and you don't have control over what is inputted into your children, then you're probably not a responsible adult, because, like, ultimately you want them to have the best chance of not just surviving in this world, but to have an awareness as to why they're here, because we're not just merely physical beings. We are spiritual beings who have chosen to be here, in my mind. And all of this, what's happening, is happening for a reason. It's not, to me, it's not just some random coincidence. And people sometimes need a little bit of a reminder and a nudge to get what their priorities should be straight. you
So
know
where do you see like the next 3 years? Like, do you even feel like the presidential election's going to happen? I feel like it's not even going to happen.
Yeah, it's I'm not it's problem with try to predict things is that you don't know what you don't know type of deal.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of, like, oh, this is happening, but there's a lot of, like, knee jerk type of stuff that is out there, that like, just like 9/11, that nobody could have predicted that was going to happen, until it happened, type of deal, right? But I don't really follow this left right paradigm. I think there's a lot of Hegelian dialectic that is happening in the world, and they do have a close, like, ear on the ground of, like, where people are at in terms of, like, their evolution of consciousness. Like, so, like, like, they want to know what the grassroots people are aware of what's happening in reality in terms of different conspiracies and whatnot. So they formulate another plan to be able to meet that halfway somehow. I mean, it's just like they need
yeah,
some kind of obfuscation or distraction or some kind of explanation. So everything is built on trust, in my mind. Like,
yeah.
people trust the dollar bill, as an example. They trust the government. They trust the
God,
scientific institute. They trust, yeah, in God, and we trust. But what God are we talking about? Which God are we talking
like
about? These kind of deals, though, too. So, like,
government.
I yeah. So, like, the next 3 years, I think things are happening since 2019, 2020, with the whole pandemic and everything. Things been kind of ramping up since then, and I do see more and more people kind of waking up to things. But also, I feel like more and more people are falling asleep. So I think there's a
Yeah,
clear kind of separation between the wheat and the chaff, kind of deal. And there could be a type of a parallel society that could coexist. One that is, like, very much within that system, the beast system that they want to create, and the other who are just, like, totally opting out, and they're like, no, we don't, we see it for what it is. We don't want to fight against it or anything, but we just want to go in our own direction, and God will protect us, because, like, like, we're good people, and we didn't do anything wrong. And if they want to bomb us, then what can we do about it? you know
it's so weird, like the difference between fervor and will and like people's opinions online versus like in reality in person. Like, people are so much more amped up online, and you feel like there's such a divide, and like, civil war is about to break out, and the economy is going to crash tomorrow. And then you drive around the country, and yeah, you see towns that are going out of business, but you also see towns where things are being built, and it's like almost 100% of people just want things to be okay. Like, they don't really want to talk about politics now after COVID and everything. But everybody just like wants things to be normal. They just want to get along and be able to be with their family, and um like back to like the early 2000s, 1990s. Like like Matrix land. That's what people want. But it's like they only have the willpower online to like, fight and do anything about it. Like if you try to like actually get people in, a civil war situation where they're fighting for, nobody has the power. It's like everybody is so either sick or tired, or they just don't, the cause, it's like in person they don't have that fervor as they might typing comments. like we just need like a total upheaval of everything, but I don't see that. There's not enough people that are willing to even go that far in person.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're poisoning the food, right? And they're
Yeah.
putting stuff in the air, and they do have frequency wave technology, and so the average Joe, they're just trying to keep their head above water, right?
Yeah.
They have the 9 to 5, and they have mouths to feed, and they just don't want to be a nail that's sticking out to be hammered down, and they just want to pay their taxes and live their lives, and so they don't want to make waves, and they don't want to be made an example of. And there are very few people in this world who actually see, what's happening for what it is. Most people are, I hate to say it this way, but they're dumbed down and poisoned to the point where they're almost like under a spell, or they're like lobotomized,
Yep.
where they
Yep.
just don't seem to see anything that's happening. There's nothing wrong, and I mean, like, and in my mind, you can call them NPCs or whatever that you want to call them, but you got to shake yourself out of the situation. You got to shake the people who are closest to you and try to influence them. And these people who we're talking about, whether they make up 50% or 80%, it doesn't matter. Like, you get to them when you can get to them, but like, you can't do anything about them. Is what I'm saying. They're gonna be what they're gonna be.
Yeah. So do you think there's like a mass threshold, like 144,000, or like some kind of like thing that's going to happen when enough people get awareness? Like,
Well, there's
is it
the
going to
idea of a
happen?
hundredth monkey syndrome type of thing, right? So there is something to be said about collective consciousness, right? And
Yeah.
and so, like, the most important thing is that you're gonna have to have one candle lit first before you can light any other candles. You can light possibly you can light all the candles from that one candle, but if there are no candles lit, then there's no chance of any candles being lit, right? So
Right.
it is the individual duty who has the desire to, like, wake up to what's happening, to wake themselves up first. Like, this is the ideal of respecting yourself and loving yourself, and understanding what your priorities are and standing on that and being an example of what it means to be a divine male slash divine female, right? And then if other people want to jump on board with what you're trying to exemplify, great. If not, there's nothing you can do about it. The people have free will to decide what's good for them, right?
Yeah. Do you think there's like a possibility of having another like manifest destiny, like that there's, I've heard recently on a few different information streams about the fact that the moon is actually a landmass in the Pacific, probably where they have that swirling island of plastic that they like to talk about. But like it's like the size of Antarctica, like, or like it's like the map of Disney is Antarctica is like half of the landmass, and then the rest is the moon or something. But like it feels like just as time goes on, like there's new land masses that are created on the western border, like manifest destiny. Like I think back in the medieval times, like maybe there wasn't land to the west, and then it's like through pure intent of discovery, land appeared. You know?
Um, I'm not sure about that, because, like, manifest destiny, as far as I'm concerned, was kind of like a fabricated part of history in my mind, because that's the idea of people going to the West, from you have the 13 colonies, and then, you have all this land, all this like Western territory, that has to be colonized, right? And then, but some research, and I'm not claiming that this is so or not, but some research is saying that a lot of these, cities like San Francisco and some of the other major cities like Chicago and stuff, they have already existed in the past. That's where the quote unquote mud flood idea is coming from. So I
Mm-hmm.
do think history has been messed with, and including the Bible and all the other stuff that's kind of been going on. And but I do think there is an idea of a destiny of, like, especially the role that America is playing in the geopolitics of the world, and this idea of, like, Russia and China. Each country has their own history, and they all believe they have some kind of a destiny to play, right? But, like, as far as, like, land just kind of manifesting out of, like, imagination, I'm not entirely sure if I would agree with that.
But like, are we supposed to like get a boat and sail to Antarctica and really see if they'll let us in or not? Like it's like we're told all these things, like, oh, you can't go there. Oh, if you just sail west from California, you'll run into Hawaii and Japan eventually. But and then we fly to Japan or we fly to Hawaii from San Francisco, and the little screen shows you your plane going doo, 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 doo. But is that really what it looks like on the map of where you're going? Like how much
Yeah.
is the trust? Like how much of a are we supposed to are we supposed to go out and seek it for ourselves? Like, is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Well,
Or
are you able to? Are you a billionaire who is willing to buy a ship, and then man it up with people who are experienced, and you got scientists and soldiers, and you can just, like, equip it with some helicopters, and is it an icebreaker type of deal? I mean, like, if you're a billionaire who can, like, finance that, and you have that interest, then that becomes a quote unquote a part of your option.
but
That's
maybe
an
you don't
option.
need all
You're
that.
capable.
Maybe you just need a sailboat, like the Truman Show, and eventually you'll run into like a paper wall.
Okay,
Like,
even a sailboat. So let's say you can afford a sailboat, and then you're willing to go it alone. Great, give it a shot if that is important to you. But obviously, there's going to be some risks that's going to be involved with that.
okay. Yeah, but I'm like saying, is that the leap that we need to get to, like, in actual physicality? I know it's like we can go there online and we could research and we could talk to people that said they've been to Antarctica, but like until we actually physically do it, like what are we even doing online? Or like what are we trying to figure out? Like how much they're lying to us? Like it's it's like we know it's all a lie, but how much are we willing
Well,
to push it?
here's the thing. Like, I don't think it's all lies. I mean, there are a lot of lies, but that's the discernment process of understanding what is the truth and what are lies. And why are they so concerned about, like, us realizing, like, who we are and what we're here to do. I mean, like, there seems to be so much effort from their end to put a veil over our eyes about, like, what what we are essentially, like, what kind of spiritual beings and what kind of powers we actually do have,
Yes, like
and
actual
right,
powers, like
yeah.
doing, yeah.
So, and people have demonstrated that, and people in the history have come and spoke about it, and I think it's up to the individual to come and quote unquote realize, make it real, those things, right? And then again,
Yeah.
not just to talk about it, not just to be flippant about it, but, like, actually go and start believing. And you just need a little bit of a spark sometimes, and then you start to go and because we're all designed in a particular way, like, we're all very different, that our uniqueness is already embedded in our DNA,
Hmm.
but it's just a matter of unlocking it, and coming to that fruition of who we are meant to be. I think that's part of that journey. I cannot tell people why you're here. That's not my my place to say, like, and then what we need to do, like, the things will unfold as they will unfold, but it always starts from you as an individual. It all starts from me as an individual. What comes after that, and how we want to, like, conduct ourselves and influence others here, because, like, these are vibrations as well, our voices here, through the ether of the internet. Right, like these, we are energetic forms that are sharing energies and knowledge, and having a kind of a conversation to understand you know what it is that I, as an individual, am here for. Maybe some people help each other to unlock that a little bit, and inspire people to see things differently a little bit.
So, like, do you think there's only like one other side, like a spiritual side and a physical side? Like, it's just a dichotomy, or are there like multiple spiritual realms that we go through, or other physical realms that we go through, or is it just between here and there?
um Well, like, personally speaking, I think we're, like, flickering, like, almost constantly in and out of the physical world. It's just that flicker rate is so fast that we just think of it as, like, being continuous.
Mm,
So, like, in the
yeah.
physical, so, like, just as, like, solids, like, solid or liquid or something is gaseous, is matter of phases, of vibration. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's also, you're given the five senses. Those are the instruments to which that you experience reality. Okay, your
Mm-hmm.
smell, your touch, your sight, your hearing, right? All those things, taste. So those are
Mm-hmm.
the vehicles, or, in the Vedic tradition, they call it the five horses that's pulling on a cart, right? So the each
Uh-huh.
each horse represents one sense, right? And the
Uh-huh.
rein onto the horses is your mind, right? Your mind is, some people call the mind as, like, the sixth sense. Okay, and
Okay.
then you have what is called the intelligence, that is the driver, and then driver is pulling the master, which is the soul. They call it uh, the Atman, right, or Purusha. So these are the individualized. So soul is considered forever. It never, it was, and it is, and it will always kind of be. So there are different layers to the quote unquote experience of this physical reality, in my personal opinion. And, we've chosen to be here. We are here now, and we're kind of, like, phasing in and out of, like, of physical reality to the spiritual reality. The spiritual reality came first. That is kind of like, what is the fundamental of this reality. But people who are very much, like, tethered to the physical reality, and they don't see the spiritual reality, or they don't sense the spiritual reality at all, and logically speaking, they say, well, no, it doesn't exist because I have never seen it, I have never tasted, I have never
Right.
touched this spiritual reality. And in a way, it is true to them that it doesn't exist. So if you have never experienced it, how can you say that it exists at all? So they live in a very physical slash materialistic world where God doesn't exist, spirits don't exist, nothing outside of what your senses tell you exists. If that's where you are, that's fine. I'm not at that position. I think I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, personally speaking.
Yeah. How much do you think the dream world is tied to the spiritual world? Are they one and the same, or are they separate places?
Um, I think dreams have different, like, roles to play for the consciousness. Sometimes they're, like, there to kind of remind you of the kind of subconscious thoughts that you may have. For example, like, if somebody is, like, suppressing lust, as an example, but in their normal life they may not express it, or they talk about it, but it is kind of there in their subconscious mind. In the dream, they might venture into, these sexual imagination of things, But the thing is, the dream world is just as real as the real world, because when you're in the dream world, you believe that all the things that's happening in the dream world to be real because you're there at that moment. Unless you have like kind of a waking dream or a vivid dream, this type of thing. But for the most part, you're there, so you're still in another matrix of some kind. So when you wake up and you remember your dream and you remember how you behaved in your dream, it just shows you that there are things to work out. It could be violent dreams, it could be nightmares, it could be whatever, but ultimately, if you have quote unquote self control, you should not have like these type of like fear type of dreams. If something's chasing you and you're in fear or something like that, you should be able to control that. But if that's happening within your dream, that means there's something to work on, in my mind.
Are you familiar with Ogtellas at all?
No, I don't know what that is. Can you explain
Oh,
to me what that is?
Ogtellas was a person, a YouTuber, back in 2017, 2000, maybe 2016 through 2018, and then he kind of stopped posting. He had like a Rasputin look. um, anyways, he talked about how like the cloning centers and the secret soldier program, and he said basically that in his in when we dream, our consciousnesses are uploaded into like actual clone bodies sometimes, and we're like run in a clone, and sometimes it's like in a gladiator type situation, sometimes it's like sex bot kind of thing, but they'll actually kill the clone and you'll experience a death, and then you wake up in your body and you think it's just a dream, but in actuality you were in another body that was a real body, but it was like a clone body or something, and then they did whatever they wanted to you and then killed you.
What do you think about that?
Um, I I I feel it's slightly true. After I did blood over intent and reclaimed ownership over my DNA, I felt that kind of stuff stopped. Um, but like it's so reflected in movies of this, like um, they put you to sleep. The like men in suits come in, rearrange the people, and then do the cleanup of the crime scene or whatever, and then that person just wakes up in their bed and they think it's a dream. Like that's in Westworld. Like it's like in so many movies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Of these like background men in black people or men in suits or hazmat suits or the Adjustment Bureau, you name it. Like, but then everybody falls asleep, like Dark City, and then they come in, rearrange, and
Mm-hmm,
then
mm-hmm.
your consciousness wakes back up in your body. In Dark City, they switch people.
Yeah, yeah. I like that movie. I think Dark City is, very good artistic rendition of what's probably happening in this reality. You know, um, and obviously everybody make references to Matrix. Some people say that it's the precursor to the Matrix in some way. The Dark City, but like, yeah, I mean, like consciousness is a mysterious saying in a way, right? So I mean I can see that it's a possibility. I don't know. I can't say like that is a part of my experience, of waking up as a clone, or but obviously, I've had very violent, dream-like experiences, and it could be maybe like that I was hijacked somehow and placed into a clone. I think clones do exist. I think this reality is a lot more dynamic and like really out there. It's like science fiction, kind of like Blade Runner type thing, with the replicants and stuff like that. That stuff could be happening. I wouldn't just dismiss that as like science fiction. I think there's a lot of maybe science fiction is more like a reflection of reality rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
You know,
And then there's
you
like
know.
Battlestar Galactica, right? Where there's like the cyborgs and they look the same as the humans.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like do you think there's like this other race of like aliens or other beings like reptilians or something that are amongst us that we just don't see?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think, like humans, when you look at them, they don't really seem to fit in nature. We're a little bit out of place, right?
Yeah.
And I think there could have been some kind of a genetic manipulation that has occurred in the past, and perhaps like the Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthals were also experiments that have failed, and we are the latest iteration of some kind of genetic engineering. I think that's very possible. I'm
There's this whole like thing with the like the mud fossils and Tartaria, and then there's like the Cabbage Patch babies and the Rose babies, and this thing of like how we're so close to trees, with our limbs, um, and I I posted on my channel, but I watch Shaking My Head Productions, and on one of his recent videos, he showed that the dictionary that Congress uses to define all of their terms, it's like a official dictionary. I think it's like
like
Brennan.
Black Laws. It's not the
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
Laws
yeah,
dictionary.
yeah, like that. And when you look up human being, the definition for human being, it first says sea monster, like sea colon
Mm,
monster. And then it goes on to define that a human being is like a man or a woman or like a divine, being that um, is secular, that worships the government, that doesn't have a god, basically, and it is mixed with characteristics of an animal.
mm.
And
Yeah,
I
like
was like,
you're a man or a
whoa,
woman. Yeah, like in the court of law, you should be a man or a woman and or a
right,
woman, and you're not a
not a
you can't
human.
represent your yeah, right. So you're not a
Yep,
citizen either,
yep,
right?
yep,
So, but this is a whole language, right? That
yep.
people now we speak English and we speak colloquial English and we speak in the manner that is culturally accepted. But in that world, when you cross the dock and then it's amity law type stuff, it's a whole different world. And they have different rules to the game, and and you have to consent to that, right? And you have to stand
Right.
under that.
And it's
Right?
like how is that, like, I know the Hegelian dialect or whatever and the Hermeticism, that they're allowed to do whatever they do to you because you don't contest or you don't say no, and they kind of tell you, but it's like how can they really hold these things to us, like the maritime law and these definitions of, actually if you call yourself a human, you're a monster and you're half animal. Like how is that even fair? Like how, like, people don't even know what they're talking about, and yet the rules are
There's
still
nothing.
applied.
Well, I mean, like there's nothing fair about this reality. It's not like there's a contract that you sign and say, "I'm going to come in and everything's going to be fair and everybody's going to start with the same thing and everybody's going to get the education." And to them, they play this predictive programming game. They play this game of like, okay, we told you through the movies what we're going to do, and you just took that as entertainment, and that's it. But for us, from their perspective, it's like me telling you that I'm going to punch you in the face, and you thought that was a joke, but then I punch you in the face, but I told you all along that I was going to punch you in the face.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah, and it's like who is them? Like, what if them is really us in the future testing ourselves? You
well,
know?
I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, it could be some really messed up sick type stuff that is happening, but like I have to think, like the whole idea of Hermeticism is that there are polarities, right? Like the yin and yang, and like the positive and negative, and in order for any kind of decision to be made, like if there's only one thing to do, then that's the only thing to do. But because there are choices, and there is a such thing as black, and this physical reality is very much, I wouldn't use the word opposite, but it's like a diametrically opposed to what God represents. God is unnameable in my mind. God is the infinite, right? This world is finite. Like we need to have finite in order to have time and space, right? If you don't have time and space if it's like forever expanding and forever, in terms of like, like it's all like
But time and
divisible.
space are constructs too. I mean, like when you really break it down.
They are. I mean, they are constructs, but what I mean is time and space are opposite side of the same coin. You know, so you cannot have space without time, and you cannot have time without space. Okay, but in terms of time, in the way we calculate it, it is a construct. Like we say, it's like, the one day is like, depending on your viewpoint, like it's the one revolution of the earth. That's one day. A 1 month is, well, it's not accurate because there are a months like July. We had two moons. We had two full moons in July. So that's where the term "once in a blue moon" comes from. There's 13
Yeah.
moons per year, right? But that's where the month comes from traditionally, right? Month and Monday comes from the moon as well, right? But these are
Which
all
is the womb.
constructs.
Which is the
What's
womb.
that?
Which is the womb. The moon is the mons, the woman's uterus, which is the actual clock that goes once a month.
Yeah, they're interconnected. I don't disagree with that, but
well, that's like how you can really judge, and that's the whole like attack on the woman, right? Is that women, I mean, when women get together, they all cycle together. Like a women's prison, they all have their period at the same time. Like when women work together, they usually start to cycle together. Um, there's this movie that I want to watch called Power, and supposedly about like women start to evolve this new gland in their throat that's able to produce electrical power. And so, like, I guess in the movie, women decide they don't need men anymore or something.
are we not already there where women are deciding that they
You
don't
can
really
just
need
watch
men
the
anymore?
Barbie movie. Oh, that was
I
harsh.
have not seen it. I
It
have
was
not seen it. I don't know if I will see it, but would you recommend it?
I mean, if you're into like existential stuff, I mean, it's really cool how I mean, it's so man bashing, and they basically compare a man to beating a dead horse, because that's the opening scene of, The Shining with the monolith where the ape is
Mm-hmm.
beating the skeleton. The skeleton is a horse skeleton. So, and in
In
the
The
movie,
Shining.
yeah, in The Shining, yeah, that's a whole hidden Kubrickian code. Is that
Mm-hmm.
surface level? It looks like, the ape is like violently evolving and getting a weapon with,
You're talking
opposition
about
of the top.
2001,
Yeah, but so
not
the ape's
Shining.
beating is. I'm sorry, yeah, not The Shining. I'm sorry, Space Odyssey 2001. Um, but then the Barbie movie takes that scene and turns it into a little girl beating her baby doll in
Mm.
in honor of the adult Barbie doll. But Ken is obsessed with horses, and he thinks horses rule the world. But they pair Ken with horses because it's beating a dead horse. A horse is uh, obsolete in today's society because we have automobiles. So just like the horse, Ken and men are obsolete. They're not needed. They're old fashioned.
I
Beating a
see.
dead horse. Yeah, it's like this horse symbolism.
Well, we live in a very topsy turvy world nowadays where men can become women, and women can become men, and whatever. I mean, like, so we have I don't know how many different genders are out there nowadays. So it's hard to keep track, right? And there's the
Yeah.
whole feminism movement that's been going on for a while as well. And it seems to be all kind of, you know, it's just fabricated to me. These are all
Yeah.
these different movements that's been kind of fabricated to disempower people. Really, it's not there to wake people up. The wokeism is actually you're going in the opposite direction from actually understanding who you are and what you're here to do. It's there to make people feel like, oh yes, this is what being awoke and enlightened is. But I don't think so. I think you're just getting dumber by swallowing that pill, personally speaking.
Yeah, speaking of pills, like being at my parents' house, I watching some TV now, and I'm not used to watching commercials, and it's just like saturated with the pharmaceutical commercials. And it's like, so it's even different than it was 5 years ago. It's like all the commercials are kind of for healthy people, like conditions that you used to not take a pill for, now they want you to take a pill for. And it's like they're lowering the age lower and lower about when they want to start you on medications. Like, and it's like once you start, it's hard to not stop taking medications. So they start you really
Well,
young.
yeah, I mean, like, when a baby is born in America, by the time they're 24 months old, how many injections do they get? you know?
Right. And it's like, and so now they're like sterilizing. Basically, they want to culturally and chemically sterilize people so that they don't reproduce. It's like, what is the goal? Is the goal to only have people that are in third world countries reproducing? Like, because they don't really get the same exposure to the chemicals and the frequencies and the medicine as the first world countries, right? So it's like we're making the
Yep.
first world countries infertile. The third world countries are gaining fertility. I don't really know if they are or not. Um, but it's like, is it just the mixture of genetics and they're trying to get rid of some genetics and promote others?
It's possible. I mean, obviously there are quote unquote different races that exist in this world, but the where are the richest countries in the world, right? They're the Western countries,
Yeah.
right? Europe, America, Canada, Australia, and then you have the Eastern powers, mainly China, right? Japan,
India.
Korea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then you have like BRICS and stuff like this. But there is, see, when I think about these quote unquote globalists, they're not really loyal to any country in my mind. They're not really patriotic. They don't really care. But
No.
they may be born in a particular place, and they may even speak their language, that particular language with that perfect accent. But at the end of the day, they really just care about their own agenda. And so when you look at like the Western society, let's use America as an example. They're living in debt for the most part. It's the richest country in the world, but like as far as it has the biggest debt in the world, and whom are they in debt to? Right, they're in debt to the central banks, right? The
Yeah.
Federal Reserve, who is a private organization. It's neither federal nor reserve, etc. Everybody knows this, right? So these are all private entities, and a lot of Americans, they're for the most part, they're very well educated. Everybody went to university or college, or they have a trade of some kind. But the if they want to create this one world government, and they want to create this like a universal basic income type of situation, they have to kind of balance things out, right? So in order for them to do that, I think they do need to move populations around, and you may have to create wars in the third world countries and make them quote unquote refugees, and then start injecting them into Europe and America and other places, right? Because they don't want to live in the country where there's war or drug cartels are running over and stuff. And but you weaken that population, though, too. At the same time, you kind of water it down, you can say. Maybe that's not a very good term, but that's because the people who are coming from these third world countries, they're going to come from with a different culture, different language, different education, right? Different values. And the thing is, people are going to be busy having to deal with each other. They're people are people, right? Human beings, but they want to survive. But if their energy is going towards each other, right, rather than against the government or against these private and secret governmental entities, maybe that could be a part of the agenda as well.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like they want us to move to putting everything on digital, and then the cord's going to be cut or something. But I like it seems possible, like if you just um are online all the time, like this concept seems possible of like going to a one world government and stuff. But like just driving around the United States and like all of the communities, like how people are just so like interdispersed and spread out like in little like canyons, and like it's so like it would be so hard to get everybody like
I
in one
I think
city. Or
Yeah, I think they understand that, and I don't think they are. They understand that they can't. There are always going to be like some percentage of the population who are not going to be duped, right? Their ability to discern what's happening is just too high, and then for them to like Joseph Goebbels during Nazi times, he said to basically the Nazi party, like, like our propaganda is like, there's still going to be like 5% or less of the population we won't be able to convince with our propaganda, right? So they're
yeah,
always kind of working with this kind of idea of probability and statistics, and they're not really interested in trying to get everybody. They can't catch all the fish. It's not possible for them. But for
yeah,
them, it's about catching enough of the consciousness, right? And to get what they want to create. Everybody else going to have to scatter or go build on their own, and like there's not much anything that they can do about it. And yeah, they can make it into like a Waco type of situation and send in the tanks. And what is their main tool of is fear. Fear is their
yeah,
main tool usually, right? The fear of becoming homeless, or you're not going to be a part of society. But like if you think about like what's happening in China as an example, like in China they have this kind of social credit system already, right? They have what is called WeChat, is their version of Twitter, Facebook, PayPal, their bank account, everything. You can call taxis with WeChat. It does everything for you. And there are
mm-hmm,
cases of people who, fell below the standard of what they consider acceptable. Their WeChat is completely off, and they don't need to send police after these people or do anything. The society will just ignore them. They can't go on a cab or a bus ride or get on a train or anything. They can't do anything. They can't buy anything. They can't do anything, and they will just die on the side of the street, and everybody will just forget about them. So if they can create a society like that, then they have you by the balls. you
right,
know
yep, yeah. That's why like we're supposed to be able to like create our little micro economies and barter with each other and say like, oh, I'll fix your shed today if you, or I'll fix your shed next weekend if you give me a bucket of tomatoes today. Like trading um, services and skills and that sort of thing, and not using any actual monetary fiat, you know. But yeah,
yeah,
and it's hard to
it's
know
hard to
too.
get
Like,
there.
yeah,
I mean, you got to do it one step at a time, I would say. But like, part like back in like what's different now than what people experienced during the Great Depression is that a lot of people grew their own food. During the Great Depression, early 1900s,
yeah,
they had their own garden and stuff like that. And during the Great Depression, 50% of the people were unemployed, and they had this like great government. It's a way for government to consolidate and such like this. But now we're more dependent than then in the corporations, because like where do your food come from? A lot of people get it from the grocery stores. Where do the grocery stores get them from? They get it from third world countries. They're
Yeah.
shipped over and they're trucked over, right? So before the apple actually gets onto your plate, 95% of its value was actually in transportation, in petrol prices and all this. It's just hauled around from this place and from another place, frozen and defrosted, et cetera, et cetera. And so, if people want to get involved with barterings and stuff, like they have to understand the value of their, work that they put into. If you have a tomato garden, like, how much do you think your, a bucket of tomatoes or a pound of tomatoes is worth? Like how much rice? How would you know? You know?
Yeah. 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 And it also, like, during the Great Depression, I feel like there was also more like of tribal, there was more of a local tribal mentality where you had like local leaders that stood up for the community more so back then, like Al Capone, like in Chicago,
Hmm.
like there were more local leaders that would go to bat for the people. And now we don't really have that. Um, like, people are so disconnected locally,
Yeah.
not knowing their neighbors. Um,
Yeah, people don't trust their neighbors.
right.
I think that's kind of like a popular, not a popular, but like the general um, sentiment of things. Is that they don't really trust the people near each other. That's why they're spending a lot of time, maybe on like online communities a little bit more, trying to find like-minded people,
That's,
but they're sporadically kind of dispersed. Many, like, yeah, there are occasions of people who are near each other, but for the most part, they're kind of spread apart. From each
yeah.
other. And,
And then
you
we
just
get
have
these
to
like
deal. Yeah.
phony tribal leaders like Archaics trying to like round people.
Well, okay, like again, like I'm not in agreement with his views and stuff like this, but like again, like like he is going to do what he's going to do, right? And people who fall under his spell are going to be under his spell of things, and they have to take ownership. See, it's not just about creating content, but following content as well, and you're supporting the channel by your participation. And like the most valuable things that we have as individuals is our time and attention. Those are things that we will never get back.
Yeah,
Okay.
very true.
So, in terms of economics, there's only two things. There's goods and services. Either you provide goods or you provide some service. The idea of these content creators that you should provide some kind of a service, in terms of knowledge or wisdom, education, whatever, the maybe decoding. I'm not sure what. I mean, there are all kinds of channels. There are cat videos, and people spend a lot of time for cat videos too. But that's entertainment of some kind, right? But like as far as goods are concerned, I mean, there's what are the basic needs? Like fuel, and food, water, shelter. Like when you follow the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, water, and shelter becomes the foundation before you can do anything else. Anyway, good luck doing anything else without food, water, and shelter, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, not really. I mean, I've put some stuff out there, but like I did have some stuff like a number of years ago, but I'm a panel walker, quote unquote, a panel walker. I like to go to different channels, and then if I saw that you were on live, and it's like, okay, let's have a conversation, see where we are at. So I'm glad I
Awesome.
had this conversation, and thank you very much for having me on, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll
Thanks
talk again
for
in the
joining
future.
me. Yeah, it was a great chat. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. But thank you so much. I really love talking to you, and I hope we can talk again soon.
Sounds good. You have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk to you next time you're live, hopefully. Goodbye
Okay.
for now. Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Thanks, chat. I'm going to go now. But it was a great conversation. Please comment. Love you all. Thank you. Thank you. Nachiketa. Nachiketa, great contributor. Thank you very much. Bye.